did you become Steven Spielberg?
Hello, welcome. It's the EV Cafe News with the award-winning EV Cafe crew. 30 minutes of what's happening in zero-emission transport with expert analysis from the aforementioned crew. Brought to you this week in partnership with Iveco, the e-daily electric van. Is there anything it can't do? It can even tow. Now then, today's opinions on a stick. Let's say hello to what can only be described as the most gorgeous, wonderful, and what's the word I'm looking for? Florally, it's Johnny Berry. Johnny, how are you, my friend?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm in the office today. Much rather be outside enjoying the sunshine.
How are you?
Yeah, we couldn't tell that.
No,
It is
your house.
who'd have thought it?
And Pablo, you're looking gorgeous as well. It's resplendent with your lightning bolt. How are you?
I'm very well. Yes, all happy and loving the sunshine. I was out there this morning having a cup of coffee at the bottom of the garden. Very delightful.
Dirty boy. Sarah, where are you today?
I'm at home, which is very unusual. And I'm having my quarterly, three to four times, I should say, haircut today. Really true news. Do you want one? You coming with me?
Yeah, what's that all about? This is what I use to do my head. It's just a quick polish, move on. And I suppose we ought to talk to Sam. Morning, Sam.
We're talking about haircuts.
Oh, has he had a haircut? Or is that just a bigger bun?
No. I'm just waiting for the comments to come out about haircut.
Hashtag sumo. Hashtag sumo.
Sumo. Right. Okay. Well, do you know what? We're gonna mix things up a bit this morning. Let's congratulate Carl Elliott. Early doors, 9:52, 8 minutes before anybody else. And can I just say that's 7.5 minutes before Johnny and Paul and Sarah.
I'm so sorry.
Carl, you get the job. You start next Friday. Ron Godfrey, he's on the tubes. He's on the YouTube. Teresa Swift, Ashley Bannister, Liz Allen, nice to see you. Pam Hanlon from Power. Tony Clayton, morning. This is going to be a cracker. Is he talking about the news or the weather? Not sure. Marvin Samuels, Dev Chakravarti, George Hillman, Ursula Perry from our friends at Green Fleet, Dan Martin. Hello, Dan. Got a new motor? Where are we? Tom Middleditch. I don't know where that came from. I'm sorry. Tom Middleditch.
Missed one.
Europe Car. Who did I miss?
Sarah. Also from Europe Car.
Sarah Clark.
I thought that said Sarah Sloman. Sarah Clark, the podcast legend. Can I just say, she was amazing. Listen to the podcast yesterday. The interviewers were a bit ropey, but Sarah Clark, utterly fabulous.
Hang on, there was only one of them. There was me. Interviewers.
Yeah,
Cheeky sod.
Both of your personalities turned up. Ben McDonald, Daryl Sharp, Jonathan Kempsell, some dude called Sam Clark. He's on the tubes.
He's a spanner, apparently.
Toby Hiles, Michael Barton. Did my comment at 9:58 get through? He was early for once. Do you know what, my friend? It didn't. So it didn't happen. There's no evidence of it. It never happened. Should we move on to the news?
That's what we're here for.
All right, Sam, you'll be delighted. The shout-outs are done and dusted. We might catch up with a few other people if they join late. Coming up, Amazon. They've created the largest fleet of heavy-duty electric trucks to hit the road this week. And we'll be talking about that. Electric van demand falls again as the zero-emission target is downgraded. We'll go to our van experts to see precisely what that means. Plug Me In joins forces with Scottish Power to help speed up the adoption of heat pumps. And the UK is on track to hit 100,000 public charge points by summer 2025. We go live to Sam Clark to find out how talking about things that are yet to happen just isn't important. And finally, Allstar customers are now able to charge on an additional 2,800 chargers thanks to Charge Place Scotland. But Sam and I are appearing with a specialist team at Webfleet on the 3rd of June, and we're supporting fleets in their early stages of transition to EV. I did a quick thing. Joe, can we run VT? I'm JC from the EV Café, and I've got some breaking news. Myself and Sam Clark are going to Webfleet, the HQ in Leamington Spa, on the 3rd of June, where there's going to be a fleet event where we're going to sort out some of the interesting and difficult questions around EV transition. With our telematics partner, Webfleet, we're going to uncover how easy it is to make the transition. So join us and register at the link wherever it is. Now that's an in-person session, Sam, that we're doing. Frothing for it?
I just recognised that van. That looked very familiar. I think it was a Guinness World Record van, if I'm not mistaken.
Really?
But it's very good.
So, yes.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. We've got I tell you what's good about it is that we've got a lot of people in attendance, a lot of people going to be dialing in, which is nice. But it's a broad range of topics as well. So we're tackling energy, we're tackling tires, we're tackling infrastructure, we're tackling vehicles and vans and all that kind of stuff. So we're going to cover loads and loads of different topics, and then getting loads and loads of engagement from the audience as well. So very, very much looking forward to that. Should be good fun.
Now then, there's a link in the chat from Paul Kirby. If you want to join us online and pose your questions, if you are starting your transition or you're a little way along the transition to electric vehicles and you want to join us online on the 3rd of June, click that link, go register, and you can come and ask some questions, make things difficult for Sam. That would be marvellous.
Yeah.
Let's get on with the news. Customers in Southern California may soon be spotting the newest additions to Amazon's electric fleet on the road. Amazon is investing in electric vehicles around the world and they're now rolling out 50 heavy-duty electric trucks in the region, their largest fleet of these vehicles in any country so far. The fully electric trucks will haul cargo containers and customer packages in their first and middle mile operations, joining hundreds of last mile electric vans already delivering packages across the state. Combined, these trucks are expected to travel more than 1 million miles each year. Now then, that's fantastic. And there are a lot of doubters around EHGV and whether it'll be hydrogen or whatever it might be to decarbonise our heavier vehicles. And clearly we need a whole system approach to electrification if we're all to benefit for transport and logistics. My big surprise was it was in America. Sam, you're busy doing stuff with EHGV. When are your first trucks going to hit the road?
They did this very week. And also, I hasten to add, it's great to see what Amazon are doing in California, but we're doing the same with them in the UK as well. So I'm looking forward to being able to do the same sort of news story, but actually a UK focused one in the coming months as we get more and more vehicles on the road. But yeah, the first ones are on the road and trucking around the UK already, and we're gathering tons of data, no pun intended. So it's really, really exciting. It is starting to move now. And the stuff in America with Amazon in California is great. You know, these trucks, these are big things, man. They've got a range of 275 miles. They can carry 38 tons. The Class 8, they are serious bits of machinery that is going to make a difference. And Amazon, love or loathe them, they do have the ability to be able to drive change. So we need them to be able to be the first ones to show the art of the possible and get stuff done. So, you know, a fantastic news story. I love seeing things happening, not talking about it, doing it. Very, very material. It's really, really good. So well played to them.
Absolutely. And congratulations on getting your first trucks out. That's really, really good news. Yeah, it's important, isn't it, Paul, that we have these companies at the vanguard of, quite literally, vanguard, of pushing forward the technology, because the next story about van sales being difficult, it shows that it's not all plain sailing. Our market is in a state of almost hibernation at times, and we've got to keep pushing.
I think you know, it's something that we talk about quite often. It's important to get stuff on the road. It's important to be an exemplar, but it's then important to make sure the economics stack up for those that can't afford to just be an exemplar. Just a point of order, though. I'm sure we had a story a couple of weeks ago, still Volvo included, but there was 100 trucks on the road across Europe. I can't remember the name of the company, but we reported on it. It was over 100 trucks, 125 trucks, which this is only 50, so it's not the biggest in the world, right?
Indeed. Yeah, that was an order for Volvo trucks. You're absolutely right. I can't remember.
Well, they already had 90 on the road, I seem to remember.
Was it IKEA?
No, it feels like DB Shank. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. But what's good is that there's a lot of good news going on. I think the world's largest might be a bit headline grabby if I'm being really honest. But exemplars, we want those in the market, but we also need it to be economically right. And let's make sure that, and the data that Sam's going to be pulling out with the ZHID trials, as are a number of others, will help us understand where it's best to deploy, how it's best to deploy, and what are the options that are economically viable for everybody to be able to invest in.
Johnny, I got a call yesterday from BBC who said, could you come on and talk about the collapse of the EV market and that people aren't buying them anymore? And of course, they got short shrift and told to bog off, because if that's their positioning, then they really have got problems. Are you seeing that drop off of sales in Novuna?
Oh, it's a difficult one to answer, really. I guess what I will say, there's lots of electric van and commercial vehicles available at the moment for fleets more than ever, but you can't have one without the other. So the bit that we're particularly focused on is not talking about the vehicles, but talking about the infrastructure. And I think it's so critical that it's reliable charging infrastructure. It's not just that workplaces, CPOs need to consider it, funders need to consider it, local authorities need to improve access and all this kind of stuff to make it happen. So again, I just highlight that you can't have one without the other, and that's why we as a company are just as focused on electric vans as we are on charging.
And Sarah, the driver experience is key in all of this. It doesn't matter what size of vehicle you're driving, making sure that it just works is key to what you do all day, every day.
Shout out to Fleet News. Other news services are available, but they had their infrastructure webinar yesterday, which had BP, also DPD, myself, Royal Mail, and Balfour Beatty, talking about this balance between trucks and vans and technologies and how we're going to prepare for what is essentially a huge volume of changeover in the next 5 years. So payments and driver experience were key to that, but also software and data that's accurate. So not sending a van to somewhere to charge where the van can't get in requires a little more human intervention than software or hardware can give.
Yeah, Ron Godfrey's on fire today. Absolutely on fire with his comments. E-trucking, is that just Yorkshire? By gum. And I think he's renamed you, Paul, Greta Van Fleet. Okay. Ben McDonald has said that the new automotive statistics from the SMMT show a month-on-month increase in EV sales. You're right, there's about a 10% increase in EV sales in April over April last year, and that was cars, Paul. I do apologise, just cars. But let's talk about vans. The new light commercial vehicle market increased by 5.4% in April, according to the latest figures from the SMMT. Demand for fully electric vans, however, fell, leading to full-year expectations being downgraded by the SMMT, which will be shy of government's battery electric vehicle target under the legislation for 2024. There were 3,889 new vans, 4x4s and pickups registered in April, the highest total for the month since 2021. Uptake for electric vans fell to 861 units, down 42% compared with last year's uplift. Paul, my friend, what's happening in the van world? Because we've worked hard with the plan for vans. This is tough.
Yeah, it is. I mean, again, I think what we're doing is we're and I know the truck stuff has to happen, but the truck stuff is happening and the van stuff has been almost moved on. We haven't really addressed vans as a market ever. Yes, there's grants, yes, there's other bits and pieces, but we're not doing what we're doing like with trucks. And I get that trucks is actually more difficult. I do fully appreciate that. But we've overlooked this sector. The zero emission van plan, which we presented earlier on this year, does outline some of the asks. But what the other element to this is the used vehicle market, and it's one that we've been talking about for some time, sort of settling in the car world. Again, in the van world, very, very tricky, making it uneconomical for the first user. Now, that's ironic, isn't it? That becomes very economical, actually, if you bought it as a used vehicle. But up front, the residual values are being affected. It's making it more difficult. And we've also not addressed the productivity issue, which comes with charging vans in the public domain. And economically, it is becoming very difficult because the cost of charging in the public domain doesn't stack up, and nor does the time lost in the productivity element, and it means that running those vehicles is very expensive. So there's a number of challenges which need addressing in order for us to move forward.
Hard question: could this sector fail? Could EVs
everything
EV
can
vans?
fail?
Yeah,
of course, everything can fail without the right focus on things. And I think what we can't do is just bury our head in the sand and say it can't fail, because it can. And it can become really, really difficult.
Ron Godfrey asked an interesting question. How regularly do van stock get turned over? What's the length of keeping a van from you? Is it 3-5 years?
So a couple of years ago, Johnny, you might be closer to this now, but a couple of years ago, it was an average of about 49 months for a lease vehicle. But if you check the BCA stats where they come out, I think they're up to about 53 to 58 months now, something in that order. So somewhere between 4 and 5 years is the average. But we are seeing with electric vans that people are running them slightly longer to mitigate the upfront cost, and because the SMR doesn't, or the service maintenance and repair, I apologise, won't be as incrementally higher as time goes by, is the thought.
Okay, Johnny, would you
No,
concur?
absolutely. It's around that sort of number for internal combustion engine equivalent. So, but with batteries, we should be considering longing out the lease, really, because as Paul rightly said, the operational costs don't go up, and you really stretch out that TCO. So, and if it works from day one, battery state of health degradation isn't really it seems to be a non-issue at the moment. So if you factor that potential reduction, you can lengthen out to like 7 or 8 years perhaps. So
John, there's a wider point, I think, from Ron's question as well, in terms of how swift a van fleet has a turnover. I think what's a wider agenda is how much are they making their decisions based on the government's messaging in regards to pushing legislation further down the road will just encourage people to take vehicles for longer, or push those diesel vans out a few more years, which will have a wider knock-on effect of decarbonisation in that sector. So that's a bigger concern that I see in that question, really.
And Sarah, I worry that, whether we've got a blue government, a red government, or, sky blue pink, it seems that nobody gets the importance of decarbonising transport. I did my carbon literacy course with Anne Snelson this week, and, we're looking at 29% of emissions are from transport, yet no party is differentiating themselves on this issue and saying we are going to clean it up. You've got individuals like Sadiq Khan who've put a stake in the ground, and that is not easy to do. Are we dependent on government to do this?
I think the transport decarbonisation plans have been long since set, and we're actually coming to the end of those cycles. I think it's 2027 and onwards. So I'm not expecting to see that in anybody's manifesto anytime soon. And also, we've invested so heavily, and I'm proud to say, particularly in cycling and walking and things that sort of take note of the transport hierarchy, and therefore freeing up road space for essential vehicles like electric vans to get around cities and towns. So I'm actually not discouraged, which I'm sure isn't what you thought I'd say. But no, I have seen an increase in public transport use, an increase in cycling and walking since that post-COVID drop. So things are sort of normalising in the transport sector.
Paul, I pick up your point about Bill Esterson. You're absolutely right. He as an individual is engaging. My point was more broadly around the manifesto commitments we might see. And at a high level, parties aren't saying, yes, this is a differentiator. We can make a difference. And I guess because there aren't votes in decarbonising transport.
Yeah, I think you're probably right.
Sadly, I think that's true.
Yeah, it isn't a vote winner. But, and I also think we just need to have one voice on this as well with the market. So the SMMT and the BVRLA sort of differ in their view. I'm not fully aware of how exactly they differ. There's certain key points that they agree on, and I wish we could talk about the things that we agree on rather than the things that we differ on. Because I think some of the key points around charging used vehicles and, just the general market dynamics, we pretty much agree on. So, yeah, I think one voice would be really great as well with government, so it would help.
Now then, get ready to pump up the jam. Pump up the jam. Pump it up. I don't know why that came into my head. Plug Me In has announced a new partnership with Scottish Power to accelerate the adoption of heat pumps. That's why it came up. Who's got a heat pump? Not me. I'm about to change my boiler and I'm absolutely stressing about this thing. So I need as much help, guidance and support as I can. Paul, heat pumper? No. Samuel?
No, not yet. Not yet. So I'd love to, but the boiler is really new, so it's difficult to justify changing it at this point.
Yeah. Sarah? Your pumper?
No way, not in this gappy cottage that I seem to live in. There's absolutely no chance. But I would say I am with Scottish Power, and they are phenomenal at their customer interaction. So there's all sorts of grants and incentives for those who can switch. And well played, Plug Me In. In fact, I've learned more about heat pumps from Plug Me In than I have from any of my endless searching. So yeah, thank you to them for their knowledge.
Now, JB, you're a dark horse. You've often got a little sustainability trick up your sleeve. Are you a pumper?
I'm hybrid.
Ooh.
Plug-in hybrid.
Don't clip that. You'll clip that later.
I've got.
Johnny is a self-pumping hybrid.
So I don't know if this is the most efficient way, but I think it is. I think it's more efficient than just running off gas. But gas for heating the water, but my house heating through air conditioning, bi-directional air conditioning, which I think is similar sort of tech. But someone's going to correct me.
Wow. Okay.
So cool.
Knew you'd have something different, you weirdo. Okay, so heat pumps. Plug Me In's announced this partnership. Engineers are already on the ground installing heat pumps for Scottish Power's Smart Solutions division. This comes as the industry works hard to keep up the rising demand for heat pumps, with the government recording an uptick of nearly 2/5 in grant applications. That's 39%. In old money at the start of 2024. Meanwhile, the number of individuals qualifying as heat pump installers has also risen to an all-time high. We got more pumpers on the ground, people. Yes. So the total number of installers increased by 166% in 2023, from nearly 3,000 to over 10,000 in 2023. My question is, what's keeping them busy? 10,000 people can now install heat pumps, but we're not installing heat pumps at any great volume that I can see, and I wish we were. Where do I go for heat pump information? Because I'm thinking about doing it, and I know there are grants available.
Either your own energy supplier or, in fact, Plug Me In. But, my observation is that it's a pretty hefty installation process and takes quite a long time. So it's not like an EV charging facility where you can put sort of 2 or 3 ACs in a day. This is like a few days, and you have to have the right housing stock. And Johnny, I know that you probably do, because I've seen your lovely house, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be spot on, whereas mine isn't. They'd have to come and assess it. So that's why it's such a slow uptake. But a bit like having a gas boiler, which goes in instantly within a few hours, it's not the same.
Right, well, we've got a great story now about the future. So Sam will be coming just to you for response and reaction to the story. The UK is on track to hit 100,000 public electric vehicle charging points by August 2025, after hitting yet another milestone. New data on charge point installation across the UK from ZapMap shows the country has surpassed 60,000 public charging points. Operated by Chargy, the 60,000th charging device was installed on Natal Road, a residential estate in Streatham, London. So we're going to hit 100,000 public electric charge points by 2025. We go to our charging expert, Sam Clark, for comment.
Firstly, I'd love to know how Chargy has worked out that it's the 60,000th.
ZapMap did.
ZapMap did. Yeah,
ZapMap
Melanie
So it was
congratulated
just
them
when the data
themselves.
fed in, was it? Okay. Yeah, there's a little
They
bit
just
of crazy
waited,
marketing
Sam, and
going on there.
energized as soon as it got to 59,000.
Yeah, I think if that was done
Energized.
on purpose, then fair play. That was quite a smart move. We're getting the data right so that you knocked in on the milestone. But yeah, no, it's all good, isn't it? I mean, look, we've been talking about EV infrastructure for such a long time. It's all about the infrastructure. It's getting very boring hearing that now, and it's becoming less and less of a powerful statement because things are moving. The number of chargers we're putting in are just thousands and thousands of them every time you look. So it's amazing to see, and the progression is not slowing down. There is a huge amount of people, not just GridServe, but Osprey, Instabolt, and others that are putting in a huge amount of effort. And the numbers are there. Utilization needs to go up now. We need to tackle the public charging prices. But to Paul's comment earlier, yes, it's more expensive on the public network, but we're charging 200,000 people a month now, and the proportion of commercial vehicles is increasing all the time. So there are more and more people, more and more commercial vehicles using the network as well, which is encouraging. But the vehicles are also getting bigger, and therefore they're harder to place in car bays. So there remains this challenge for me in regards to commercial charging for the stuff in the middle. It's not a car and it's not a truck. We've still got this challenge with trying to make the long wheelbase Mercedes Sprinter fit. Doesn't fit, and it's got nowhere else to go. So we've still got challenges like that we need to overcome. Overall, the numbers are going in the right direction, and they're not slowing down. But they're definitely not slowing down. So it's very, very encouraging.
Marvelous. Good man. Now then, Allstar customers are now able to charge on an additional 2,800 chargers at 1,400 locations with 6,000 connectors, because they've done a deal with ChargePlace Scotland to give access through the Allstar card to every charger in Scotland, from the Shetlands right down to the borders. This will simplify and streamline processes for businesses using EVs in Scotland, enabling them to do business through one card across borders. So whether you're in England, Scotland, Wales, wherever you are, you've got access to charging through Allstar. This is great news, and making it easy, Sarah, for people to be able to charge and get all of the reconciliation done. I know Sam has an absolute nightmare reconciling all of the payments and expenses that happen for the EV Café. It is a big headache, and smoothing that curve is nice, and it's achievable through Allstar.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to catch Ash Tate's presentation at the CV show, and above this huge screen were all of the logos of all of the charging operators that they reconcile with, as in you use the card and pay later in the monthly return, but also the home charge reconciliation, because of course they acquired Mina, which was Ash Tate's sort of brainchild. So yeah, really the one to watch, and I think they're a sort of household name, high confidence in drivers, and if that helps people shift to EV, then I'm all for it. Well played.
Talking about the sort of the confidence in the marketplace, I saw two manufacturers this week who've said that they won't be paying any ZEV mandate fines if they fail to achieve their 10 or 22%. That shocked me. I really was taken aback by that. Paul, you're not surprised at all?
No, so what's been really clear from the beginning. So there's two names for these targets: VETS target and also the ZEV mandate. So the VETS target, it's very confusing because I was on with Mandy Dean from Ford, and she was saying, she's the commercial vehicle director for them, and she was saying in her commentary, the VETS. And I'm like, what the hell's this VETS thing? I had no idea. But so there's two different targets going on, and what you can do is borrow from one, and so what all the manufacturers have a CO2 line, and as long as they sort of can bring that line down over time, then they get credits, and those credits can be used against the fine. So basically, before 2027, probably the end of 2027, manufacturers can beg, borrow, and steal in various different ways, and they have levers to pull, which means that they won't part with a penny. But come 2027, there's a bit of a calculation and a reckoning and a right, let's see, and then fines kick in, or could kick in, and maybe some will fall foul in the short term. But I suspect there'll be some clever accountancy going along to manage these levers, and nobody's going to pay a penny.
Well, I think, Paul and John, I think what you mentioned there, the element which hasn't been mentioned, which is interesting, is the fact that what the inference is that the manufacturers will increase the price of an internal combustion engine. So rather than pay fines, they'll increase the price of their main product lines at the moment, which is interesting. So it's the same deal. You're just finding the money elsewhere. But I think it is interesting that they potentially will inflate the costs of the internal combustion engine vehicles to compensate for any fines that may occur. Now, if you're going to have to pay the fine one way or another, I quite like this. I think that's actually quite a good thing to do, because it's helping to discourage the internal combustion engine market still further, and therefore encourage more people to make that switch. So if you're going to pay the price somewhere, I actually quite like the concept that they have inferred they're going to do, which is put the price on the internal combustion engine.
Yeah.
But so, Sam, that has a really detrimental effect on the market. First of all, it will probably reduce the amount of new vehicles that will go into the market because people just won't buy them. And second of all, it pushes up the overall cost of transport rather than bringing the cost down by reducing the cost of electric vehicles. That's really counterproductive because the whole of the market, you know for yourself, transport is on such tight margins. If you just keep pushing up the price of the vehicles rather than letting the economy bring the price down or the residual values get those pushed up so that the cost of ownership decreases over time, then you're in trouble.
Well, the critical thing is that you create more cross parity against the EVs, and then there isn't a slowdown in commercial acquisition of vehicles because people will gravitate to the EV, which is on a cost parity then with the diesel or the petrol equivalent. So the strategy is to try and not sell less vehicles; it's just sell the right vehicles.
Interesting. That one is going to run and run. If you have any clean transport, PR, or news stories you'd like us to cover, send them to us at hello@evcafe.org. Until next Friday, it's goodbye from me. It's goodbye from the brilliant team at the EV Cafe. Thanks, guys. This has been an EV Cafe production brought to you this week in partnership with Iveco. The e-daily electric van can tow 3.5 tons. Other sustainability news services, as Sarah rightly says, are available, but this is just fun.
Johnny can't do it.
He's truly blessed. He partnered with the AA, Webfleet, Europcar, Plug Me In, Pay Through, Iveco, Zaptec, Drax, Spiri, Hydrock, Allstar, and Schneider Electric and Dynamon. With EV Cafe, supporting the transition to zero emission transport. Enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy the sunshine. Get some Factor 50 on because you don't want to end up with a lump. Know what I'm saying? Righto. Till next Friday. Adios.
Bye.
You are a lump.
Such fun. Such fun. A lovable lump.